it is the thin ice press. So printmaking, workshops, memberships. So bye Rose, lovely to see you, hope to see you again soon. So we've got an arrow telling us this is the way, and of course that your conduct is here. So we know we're in the right place. And I'm hoping to catch the eye, hello there, of one of the demonstrators explainers. So hi everybody, we're just doing a live stream here, so if you're not where you should be, hide now.
So there is live stream happening. If you're keen not to be on camera, then hide. But otherwise, if you're happy to be mingling around. Anyone want to do prints? Yeah.
So we're just going to watch for now, and then perhaps we'll have a little chat when you've done this. So obviously, exhibitions of sort of print craft is going on here. So the ruling in the ink. I'll not. I'll come over and.
And then if you take the other end of this, and we'll just roll it nice and smooth across the surface of the type. There we go. And just feel it there. You see on the roller where what's going on. Yeah. So I'll lift that up and pop it away for us. And then we've got this, which we've pre-printed on our risograph, and a little bit of letterpress stuff there to give you the background of the print. So I'll lift that up. This is called the tympan, this is called the brisket. And then if you can kind of make sure that's lined up underneath these little tabs, basically. Underneath? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Put and kind of sit in there, that's it. Nicely lined up, that's brilliant. So we'll fold this down. And that's got two functions, so you can see it stops the paper just flapping on when we fold it down, but also if we had got ink on here accidentally or whatever else, then it would go on there instead of going on your print. So if you can hold the other one of these, and basically as we push this forward, that'll just again stop it flapping forward and hitting the type. Okay, there we go. And how strong are you feeling? Fella. Great, okay. So it's that handle, and if you can roll it anti-clockwise, and you're moving it along so this sits underneath the plant here. There you go. Yeah, that's brilliant. Stuff. There we go. And coming back just a little bit, it goes further than it needs to, I don't really know why, but if you come back clockwise just a tiny bit, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's really good. And then reaching across from where you are, just mind on the oil there, but both hands on there and put it towards you. Brilliant. As far as you can go, that's it. And then bring it gently back. Fantastic. And then clockwise on the handle, so the other way, and just roll it all the way back out.
Clockwise. This way?
Yes. Okay, and then you're just going to lift up again with the clogging into there. That's it. And there's your print. Let's check it out. Yeah. So it's a poem written by someone called J.R. Carpenter, who is a really brilliant contemporary poet. She's worked with us on various things, and it's actually about the first time she came in and saw the press and so on. So it's got the stuff about the smell and the colours and her kind of falling in love with what we do here. So we thought it was a really nice thing to print for the event. Yeah, you can wrap it up here.
Fabulous. I'm just going to reset the gimbal, and then perhaps we'll have to get in because I've lost the gimbal again. So just bear with me. So, there's this. Can you just introduce yourself? Would that be okay?
Yes, sure. Sorry, I'll just.
Yeah.
So I would pop that in the top bit basically. And then if I roll it, put that on that little it'll just stop it setting off by itself basically. So then you can take it off and put it in. So you can roll. That's perfect. Yeah. Sorry.
So quite literally the printing press we've just seen, but look at the. So hi, yeah, can I just ask you to introduce yourself?
Sure, yes, I am Helen Smith and I'm Director of Thin Ice Press, the York Centre for Print.
And how long has Thin Ice Press been running?
And we started on the university campus in 2017. Right from the beginning there, we got people asking if we did workshops and if they were able to use equipment and so on. So to make that possible, we first of all ran the Street Life project, which some people might have seen, from 2020, where we were kind of testing people's appetite for this kind of work.
That was on Coney Street, wasn't it?
Yes, that was on Coney Street. And beautiful press was there in the window. So we got a lot of enthusiasm there, a lot of interest. And so when that finished, we were able to find this lovely building, courtesy of the York Conservation Trust, and we've been open and running since the end of May.
Can you just tell us about this? Because obviously straight away it captures your eye. Obviously we've just seen it mechanically, it works perfectly.
Yeah.
But also it's very beautiful, isn't it?
It is.
Incredibly ornate. So what sort of time period is this from?
This is from 1845. It's a Colombian press, a relatively small one. Many of them will be much bigger. But they were patented in 1838 by a guy called George Clymer in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Didn't really take off in the States. There wasn't as much printing at that moment. So many of them, like this one, were built in London or Edinburgh, and used here in the UK. Yes, and really beautifully decorated. So an American eagle at the top there. This, believe it or not, underneath is a dolphin, which is based on an old printer's device. So it looks more like a medieval sea creature.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then down the side, we've got caduceuses. So these are the staff of Hermes.
Yes, like the doctor's thing, isn't it? Yeah.
And that idea of kind of the printing press as a messenger. That's something that
yes, so we already got that. So I've heard that word printing press before.
Okay.
But until just then, didn't really kind of get the physicality involved so you're literally pressing the paper and the ink and the. So we've got the letters in it. This is typeset, is that what you call it?
This is type. So this is metal type. So each of those letters is an individual piece of type. They've been put together by one of our technicians brilliantly. It's called composing, or using it, done by a compositor.
Yeah.
Letters put together bit by bit, spaces added in, locked up in this metal frame to form what we call a form.
Yeah.
And then, yes, you put the paper into the press, you put the paper onto the top of that inked type, and you squeeze it.
And back to front, of course, as well.
Yes, although when you're actually doing the typesetting, there's a little nick in the type, so you don't need to worry about making it back to front. You just have to trust that you're doing it the right way around.
Oh, I see. So there's no. Now, somebody just said that looks like a Rube Goldberg type machine. Does that make sense to you?
It does make sense. I suppose it does look very elaborate, and there are kind of lots of moving parts and things kind of following on one from the next. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the elements we saw there, obviously, so you got the ink here, which I almost got on my shirt a second ago. So what ink, you put the roller on there.
Yes.
So you got heavy rollers, that even coating of ink.
Yes.
You then laid in your paper in there.
Yes.
It contacted with the raised lettering.
Yeah.
And that's as you ran that over then and pressed that in effect just.
Yes.
And is it leaving a physical imprint into the paper as well, or is it simply surface?
It is a little bit of an imprint into the paper, but that's a really interesting thing about modern printing. So whether you want to blame William Morris and the Kelmscott press, or whether you want to blame Martha Stewart and wedding invitations, the fashion at the moment is for very heavy impressions, so where it's really punched into the paper and it makes it look really obviously hand printed.
Yes.
But that, a kind of good old-fashioned purist printer would tell you that's not good printing.
No.
What you want is what they call a printer's kiss.
Yeah.
So you get the paper and the ink just meeting, you get a little bit of bite, but you don't get that kind of punch through, and you shouldn't see the outline of the type on the other side of the
So
paper.
we just have a look at. I know this is obviously not the one that a lady printer set, but it's very similar.
Yeah.
What I love about these is that, as you say, with that kiss, is the colours are always slightly different, aren't they? Each one is almost unique, isn't it, in terms of where you get the spaces and where you get the sort of shapes and so forth. So it's not a uniform mass production, is it, even though obviously this is set up for mass production?
Yes, no, that's absolutely right. Every print will be subtly different, and the effect will be subtly different. So these are very similar, but each one is different. The fact that I really like is we've got just over 200 of Shakespeare's first folio, so a really famous collection of plays.
Yep.
Just over 200 of them exist in the world, and every single one of them is different. Not one of them is exactly the same, because they corrected things, because they changed things, because it printed differently. So it's exactly what you're saying.
And then you got the hand stitching as well, haven't you, holding them all together? So in order to get these different colours, is that a separate run with a different colour ink for each time? Is that how that's done?
Yeah, so in fact for these ones we use what we call a risograph, which is another piece of kit. It's our most modern piece of kit. It's Japanese office equipment basically. And it is, as one of our technicians put it, as though a photocopier and a screen printer had a baby. So it basically, you print one colour at a time on that in layers, and it burns screens inside itself as you're doing that. So we use that for it, but you can also do it letterpress, and exactly you would do that one working at a time. You do the red, then you do the blue, then you do the yellow, and with the risograph you build them up and get this very particular set of colours.
It's really beautiful, and the way the colours meld as well. I mean, you're getting new colours emerging, aren't you, from that? So obviously you've got a range. Is this a history? Is there a kind of narrative in looking at these machines? Are we tracing a history, or is it simply where there was space?
Both really, but yes, in the front room we have got slightly more kind of historical equipment. So 1845 press there, this is 1853, a beautiful big Albion press. So these are still that kind of iron hand press kind of world, and really old-fashioned letterpress printing.
And this is a physical job, isn't it? By the end of the day, you would certainly know you'd done a day's work, wouldn't you?
Yes, yes.
So they are Finsbury. Leslie's on from Hornby in North London, so not far from your manor there.
Yes. So
that. Yeah, sorry. I'm just saying. Just looking at the weight of these plates. I mean, Is it well balanced? Does it feel like that, you're dealing with that much weight?
No, and that's one of the big advantages of these iron presses over the wooden presses that went before them. So wooden presses, notoriously printers would damage their shoulders because it was so hard and so much work. Whereas these, although they are big, heavy machines, this weighs 1.5 tons, but still the actual pressure involved in doing the pull or in making them work is much, much less.
So when we think about sort of Gothenburg and William Caxton, the original kind of printers, is the idea the same but the execution's better here, or is it a radically different kind of...
Very similar, but because of the iron, just a little bit easier to use. So I do like to say, especially on our campus facility, if Caxton or Gutenberg or someone walked in here, yes, it would be different. We've not got paper windows for a start, but it wouldn't take them long, I think, to work out what was going on and how to do it.
That's interesting. So by Hopkinson & Co, which are Finsbury, actually that part made in Manchester.
So I think that Thompson must have been the printer who owned it. I think they must have had it once upon a time. We need to do a little bit more research into the provenance of it. But yeah, I think that's that they TC Thompson were the ones who actually had it as a press.
Not an easy bit of kit, would it be, to move from Finsbury to Manchester? Quite an undertaking. But again, this decoration we've got here, it's the functionality and beauty at the same time, isn't it? Being combined. And I love where that, I don't think that's varnish, that's just, from use, but the polish of that handle is just beautiful.
It is gorgeous, yes. This has been very well looked after. It came to us from a guy called Simon Lawrence who runs Fleece Press, which is a fine press, and it's just gorgeous.
And is it a working press, this one?
It is, it absolutely is. So we need, for health and safety reasons, we need to get it propped up. Because when you unfold our tympan and frisket here, it's massive.
Sure.
But it is, it's a beautiful
So that's almost like sort of A0 kind of size, isn't it, for your printing? That's the full...
You can print broadsheet newspapers on this,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is that typically what it would have been used for, mostly?
One of the things that it would have been used for. So posters, you could do book printing on this, but yes, newspapers, right up until into the 20th century, newspapers would have been printed on presses like this. And
of course that happened here in York as well. Obviously we're talking about London, Manchester, but York has a grand history of printing, yeah?
Yes, it does, yes. So printing in York goes back to the late 1490s at least, and we know that probably the first woman printer that we know about in the UK was here in York, called the Widow Warwick. There was printing here more or less continuously, so a spell when there was no printing but still book selling, but then during the Civil Wars, King Charles I came to York and brought his printer with him to print propaganda.
So we've got, firstly, if I remember rightly, we've got woodcut printing, haven't we? Before typeset printing. They're sort of quite two different departures, if you like. Is that...
So engraving and blocks would have happened, and also the whole thing is that, of course, we say Gutenberg invented printing. He didn't. It was going on for centuries in China and Korea, and he's using old technologies. But that real takeoff of European printing was in the 1450s.
But we know as well that pilgrims sort of coming to the city in the 13th and 14th century would buy woodcuts of St William and the Minster and so forth. So the printed material was not strange, was it? It's this ability to craft and change lettering.
Exactly.
Yes,
movable type. Yeah.
And of course that would mean, wouldn't it then, that sometimes those letterings would have some quite challenging ideas behind them.
Indeed.
Seditious, blasphemous, sort of ideas really could now spread really through the production of print material.
Yeah, absolutely. And very much that's how the Reformation spread. That's the kind of story people tell. That's how new ideas about the church and state spread. Also foreign policy. So lots and lots of anti-Ottoman propaganda was part of the early printing press. So thinking about the relationship with the very powerful Ottoman Empire in the Arab world.
So not a million miles away from social media of its day, but hopefully more accurate perhaps than some social media. But this rapid spread of new ideas, and in very portable, because obviously a piece of paper you can fold it up and quite easily pass it to somebody discreetly, can't you? It's hard to suppress, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. And more pieces of paper circulating, and that idea of how quickly it could be reproduced and how quickly those things could move was really radical and really amazing to people in the period. And there was a real worry about how much was being printed, this fear that there was just too much to know, too much to read. Yeah, we're just stuck with this. So
it's fascinating, isn't it? Because there was a time, wasn't it, where educated men wanted to have read every book, as you might say. And of course, just because it's impossible, isn't it? Like saying, you've read the internet now, you can't do it. So, talk me through this little sort of setup in here.
So this is really lovely. So
can we step in? Would that be okay?
Please do, De Little and York were the last running wood type manufacturers in the UK. So metal type has been going since the 1450s, but you can only go up to a certain size with it, partly because it gets damaged, partly because it's lead and it's just massively heavy. And so wood type became very popular in the 19th century, particularly in America. De Little started making wood type in York. They were first called the Eboracum letter manufacturers, and they were the last wood type manufacturers in the UK. So this is Robert DeLittle's office. This sat in the corner of the factory on Vine Street. He could pop his head out, keep an eye on things, and he handmade this desk. And you can see the decoration on the desk. That's actually the same as some of the decorative borders and decorative pieces that they made for the type. So he's actually used the same things to make his desk and have that really
Union flag over here as well.
Two-colour printing.
In reverse,
so,
yeah,
yes,
fantastic.
Yeah.
So obviously we're more familiar with sort of fonts these days with our kind of word processing. Were fonts a thing then as well? Could he choose what you wanted your kind of typesetting to look like?
Yes, so that's by buying a certain typeface.
Yeah.
So that's where Times comes from. That's where Garamond comes from. All of those things, they are Garamond, especially old typefaces.
They're just the most successful ones because so they lasted, if you like, the course of time.
Yes, absolutely. And a font is a kind of particular set of them. So your font would be your 14-point Garamond Roman. Would be your font, and your typeface is Garamond. That would run across the whole different range of letter sizes, italics.
She loves that so much. Do you do postcards?
Absolutely, yes, yeah. We £3 for a postcard.
There we go. You made a sale already, so we'll make
great.
sure that you've got an online element to that. So let's go through obviously your more modern printing press down here, or it appears to be more modern. Excuse me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Talk me through a bit of what we've got in this room, then, if you would.
So in this room over there, we've got our wood type collection, which we think is the largest collection of wood type in the UK outside private hands. The story behind that is kind of sad in one sense because it came originally from a place called the Orphans Press in Leominster.
Okay.
So there was a Quaker philanthropist who set up an orphanage, and then in order to keep the orphanage running and look after the orphans, he also set the orphans to work in a printing house.
Okay,
so,
well, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was learning a useful trade.
Quakers did believe, in
Indeed,
the industry and sanctity of work. So.
But all of this wood type comes from there, and you see we've got all different sizes.
Look at those.
And more than 100 years old, quite a lot of this. So really beautiful and a really wonderful collection.
Would these be hand carved originally or a machine tool used to
They would
create them?
originally have been hand carved, but then using a router, and we've actually got one of the little pantographs at the back there. So that was a kind of innovation where he managed to be able to cut two sizes of wood type at the same time. But yes, using a machine and then lots of hand finishing to make them.
So this is what we were looking at before in your poem setup. So this is the individual
this is
letters.
Type, yes. Yeah.
So how do you know which letter's which then, other than which?
It is what we call the case lay. So it is that you learn as a printer, you learn where each letter is in the typecase, so that you won't be looking in and fiddling around and trying to peer at a tiny letter and see whether you've got the right thing. It's just that you know the E's go here, and you reach in. And
so like a
take
touch typist wouldn't need to look; they'd know where to.
Exactly.
So is this where the pesky printer's devil would come in then, mixing the letters up?
They reckon that the printer's devil was a name that was used for children who worked in the press. And I don't know how convincing it is, the idea they might be blackened by ink or whatever else to make them little imps or little devils, but that's the idea. And of course we've got the lovely printer's devil on Stonegate.
So absolutely.
Yeah. But Titivolus is the patron saint of error, and he definitely has a home in the printing house. Yeah.
So would this be a purpose-built piece of cabinet making to house
exactly
this?
Right, yes.
So it's almost like an architect's chest, isn't it, with for the plans?
Yes,
but And so now that people obviously know this collection, are you now getting donations of people sort of coming and helping you to grow what you've got?
Yes, so we've collected all of this from different sources and bought some of it, and also had some as donations. We had a very lovely offer of an etching press this morning, so hopefully we will be moving that in before too long. So yes, we are getting people knowing what we're doing and keen to see.
You're going to outgrow this place, aren't you? You can see what's happening. Let's take over the hall as well.
That's the danger. Yeah,
that is the danger.
Yeah.
So what sort of time period are we spanning here with the machinery in this room?
So these presses are mainly from around the 1920s through to about the 1960s.
Okay.
So the Adanas were invented in the 1930s. These lovely little tabletop presses.
Okay, so they're small versions. So the same principle. So what rollers?
Yeah, rollers that come up and pick up ink from this plate.
The ink's on the plate.
Yes,
So it's all in one hand movement. That's nice, isn't it?
So and every time you print, so your type is there, or your lino cut or your wood cut or whatever else, your paper's there.
Yeah.
And every time you bring the rollers up, you ink up again, and so you can just keep going over and over
So you're pretty productive with that one, presumably, couldn't you? You could knock out quite a lot, couldn't you? I mean, single colour one would assume doing that.
But yes, they are. They're brilliant, sturdy little presses. They're fantastic.
So they last well, these machines. In terms of curating this, it's an easier job, I guess, because of the quality of the build.
Yes, they're really good, and obviously you do need to de-rust them, you do need to oil them, you do need to look after them, but they are really good machines. They're built to last. Yeah. Yeah.
And do we have sort of many? Are you sort of collecting the stories as well as people that kind of worked on the hot presses, you might say, and the lived experience of working these machines?
As much as we can. So on Coney Street, we had a lovely project. One of our researchers was talking to people who used to work on the press.
Yeah.
And we got brilliant stories from them about all the kind of workplace community, the tricks they used to play, particularly the idea when you're setting type, if you knock it over, it's called pieing your type, and you can imagine how frustrating it is. So the story I love is that basically if there was no one around, it was the end of the day, they were tired, then they would scoop it into their aprons and chuck it out the window. So there was a lot of type in the river.
No one would know. But I remember seeing the enormous rolls of paper arriving by barge, down there when it used to be on Warmgate, didn't it, from down the Foss. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's for those that have, I'm sure it's not all the same for lots of cities, but, print and being around the mechanics of print is a York thing, isn't it? Ben Johnson's was a kind of big employer.
Yes.
There's a lot of, lived experience, isn't there, of print in this city.
And it's lovely, people coming in, there's a real sense of like, oh, I remember this, my dad had this, my granddad had this, that sense of people who've been around this stuff and have either been printers themselves or, have had it in the family or have had it around, and it's lovely to see the connections it makes when people see the stuff, to just be back in those memories.
So it's part of our identity, isn't it? And of course, then you go back to York Courant and the Mercury and all these old papers. So they're hearing an informer who've just been in the assembly room, so they would have been reading, about the kind of societies and the balls, by prints coming off these machines like this, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would.
So, okay, so what's the next one we're looking at here then?
This is a not-powered proofing press. So a proofing press, it is that idea that you're just doing a rough and ready print on this. You're putting down your type or your print, whatever you're doing. You pull it forward, you pop your paper in there, you pull it back, and very quickly you've got a print. So it is a way of just seeing what you've got, and especially with letterpress, of then correcting it, realising what mistakes you've made, realising what you want to look different.
So it's your print preview, as you might say, of mechanical world.
Yeah. And it's where the idea of galley proofs comes from. We still use that phrase in
we
publishing
do,
today.
you do.
But it was, a galley is the metal tray, so that's what you would have had your proof page on. You would have taken your proof of it, and then you would put the galley back whilst you worked out what you needed to do.
Yeah.
So it is where that comes from.
I keep seeing really kind of nice balance, the way that these are moving backwards and forwards. They're really well engineered machines, aren't they? You can just sort of see the craft so that you've got a real even distribution of weight going through these things. All the bearings and everything are.
Yeah, they're beautifully put together. Yeah.
So what is this artwork that's being produced here within?
Yes, this has been done on our risograph. So that's that modern piece of equipment, the 1970s, that kind of crosses over between almost like screen printing. It cuts master screens inside itself, burns master screens inside itself. And you print one colour at a time to build up these layers, and you get these really, these very specific kind of colour combinations and this kind of aesthetic that is, so it's Japanese office wear, but they are really popular, especially among zine makers.
That's wonderful, this one.
It's gorgeous.
That is stunning, isn't it?
It's a design by one of our technicians, Phil Treble. He's part of Muttons and Nuts, which is a brilliant letterpress studio. But this is Phil, a design that he's done letterpress, but playing around with it on the risograph and seeing what he can do.
So do you take on commissions then in here? Is it still a working press in that respect?
It is. We got some commissions. I have to say that we are slow. It is a craft. But if people want to, have a poem printed, or if people want to get a particular thing, we're doing some letterheads at the minute. We've done some Christmas cards for our landlords. Bits and pieces. We're also doing a book project. But if someone does want to do something, they can talk to us about a possible commission.
So wedding stationery, those sort of things, really kind of something really unique that you couldn't get elsewhere,
Or they can come in and do it themselves, is the other lovely thing. So if you want to have a really unique wedding invitation that you've made yourself, you can come in here, get a session pass, work with us and produce something really beautiful. And
okay, let's just play devil's advocate for a second. Why bother with all this? We've got technology now, we've got our Macs, we've got the things that can make it so much easier, be more productive. What's the attraction to the old technology?
Partly it's just knowing how it was done, and we will forget it if we don't keep doing it. And what's the biggest thing I've learned from actually doing printing, it doesn't matter how much you read about it, it doesn't matter how much you know the theory, it doesn't matter how much you know in principle how it works, you have to do it in practice to really understand how it works. You have to do that moment of realising, oh, it can't be like that, it is like this. Instructions will get you a long way, but there's a certain point when it's actually doing it that means you understand it.
So you really need to get your hands dirty, as you might say.
You do need to get your hands dirty, and it's on the red list of endangered crafts, especially letterpress printing. And that idea that this is something that has shaped the world in really fundamental ways. If we don't do something about it, if we don't keep practicing and doing it and using it, it won't survive for another generation, and we will have forgotten these skills.
Is it embossing, this one? Is this a different?
This is a book press. This is about just kind of getting the weight down and flattening those pages, and getting it carefully kind of pushed together as you're making up the whole thing.
Linda from America was just saying, what a lovely place to work, just looking out the window.
It's
really,
yes, yeah. So
really
Danton's garden is really special. Yeah.
Ah, so here's this reso the colour tones.
Yes, exactly.
So it's a demonstration of the application of different ink as to what you
Yes.
can. And so is this just a Japanese machine, or is it a Japanese, if you like, invention, if you like,
It is
innovation?
it's a Japanese invention, kind of like Xerox machine or whatever else, but with it's using, as you can see, it's just using 5 colours, 4 colours in black, and then what you can layer up and what you can create from that. So yeah, it's just office equipment, but it's really fun and does brilliant things. Yeah.
It's technology and creativity, is it, kind of coming together there?
Yeah. These are powered proofing presses.
Because these are all looking a bit more modern now, I'm guessing.
Yeah. From roughly the 20s to the 60s, these ones. But they are the key thing is that you can. If we go up to one of the other ones, they've got powered inking. So it just means that the kind of laborious thing we were doing at the front of every time you do a print, you need to run the roller over it. That's what these ones do for me. So
automating elements was again more productive.
Yeah, and I can fit this down. And you see that roller's not on properly. You can see that basically the rollers rotate and run round, and then you've got they will carry each other, so that will just keep the ink running. And again, like the Adanas, each time you use it, you run the ink across the surface of the type as you go, and then you can just do the next one and the next one and the next one.
And presumably the weight of that just keeps everything nice and stable to run through.
These are beautiful presses, and they do really good, clear, crisp printing. They're fantastic.
And it's really quiet as well, isn't it? You know, you sort of think of that sort of hot press, and like kind of, really kind of loud, printing presses. But this is incredibly quiet, isn't it?
You get a bit more of a hiss when the ink is actually on there. You get the kind of the hiss of that. But yeah, they are quiet, good, well-engineered machines.
But there's no clanking, is there? Do you mean or kind of sounds sort of metal on metal? It just sounds very, very smooth, very well engineered.
Yeah. You will hear a bit more as I do the handle, basically. But even then, it's just rolling on round. It's not. There's no kind of major or kind of terrifying about that.
So, go on, I'm going to put you on the spot. Which is your favourite of these machines?
Mine probably is the Colombian in the front. I really like that, the kind of really old technology and the way in which printing was done from the modern day. But I will admit I've got very fond of the powered proofing presses. And actually, I mean, this is just saying I like them all, isn't it? But the Adanas...
So which of these are actually in use then, when people are doing kind of projects? Which are your go-to machines then? Because I'm assuming not all of them.
These two SP15s are really fantastic and we're using them a lot, but any of these powered proofing presses we're using. But a lot of it does depend on what you're doing. You want to do a postcard or a greetings card, well, the Adana is the perfect thing to use for that. You want to just kind of play around or test out your lino and see how it's looking, then the non-powered proofing press is perfect. You want to be starting to actually produce a run of posters, then heading across to the powered proofing presses.
So quite literally use a workshop, this isn't it? It's not simply a museum, this is a working enterprise, is that? Is that the idea that you will kind of sustain it from project work?
Exactly, and the idea is, I mean, we will from running workshops, from memberships, from projects, from philanthropic funding, and raising funding from other sources, we're sustaining ourselves. But it is loads of this stuff could be museums, loads of this stuff is in museums, but it's locked away and not in use, and there isn't any point in preserving the equipment if you don't also preserve how to use it.
And obviously you're saying there about danger of losing out. Are we getting children in here to kind of get their hands dirty and find out what can get involved and perhaps give the bug to a new generation?
Yes, we've had kids in today, which has been really lovely, and we're also running lots of free children's workshops. They're up on the website. We've got things going on in half term, we've got things going on just before Christmas and so on. And seeing children come in and the kind of joy of kind of playing about and experimenting is really, really fun.
Vinyl and cassettes have come back. Surely analogue is in fashion, isn't it? So
exactly.
who can say? But it does seem a wonderful collection. And so how did you get into it? Did you start as a professional printer? Or are you academic?
I'm an academic. So it was exactly by writing about and thinking about old-fashioned printing, and it was exactly that sense that I knew an awful lot about how printing had been done, but had never done it myself. And actually, what does it mean to give it a go and to get your hands dirty and to do it? And the feeling of what it felt like to do it, the feeling of looking at a mistake, and I knew in theory about printing errors, but now I know what it feels like
to actually do it, to be responsible for that error.
Yeah.
And so, what your passion? How did you manage to get it together to make it happen in the first place?
We were we're just very lucky. The university has funding available for capital projects, and we tend to assume that that's for the sciences. But actually, we thought, why not? Why wouldn't we have presses for our students? And I've always felt students at Oxford and Cambridge can learn bibliography in hands-on way. So why not open that up to more students, and why not bring that to York? So it was really very much about making sure that was possible to another generation of students, and then beyond them now to York as a whole, and to people who want to come and visit us.
And looking at these machines, it's really art and science coming together, isn't it?
Yes.
It's science to create art, if that can make sense, isn't it?
And that's been one of the lovely things. The head of the chemistry department used to walk down the corridor and gaze in at our presses. It is that sense of, it crosses disciplines. Everyone loves it.
Yeah, you've got mechanical engineering, you've got the science of your colours and inks and chemistry, haven't you? But electricity, if that's your thing. So I don't think we just sort of, over here, this is your range for sale. We're just...
Yes, so the notebooks, postcards, we've got a selling gallery out in the hallway, we've got little chapbooks that we've printed, we've got our t-shirts, and we're building up constantly to kind of get more stock in and more things that we can have available for sale. And we do sell vouchers as well, so if people want to book into a workshop or get something, a great Christmas present to get in, so that somebody can book in for a workshop and do something really fun with us.
And have you got a website that people can find out a bit more about you?
www.thinicepress.org. So yes, and all the details are on there, and obviously people can also sign up there for our mailing list and find out what we've got going on.
Can we just finish up with looking at the gallery that you've got on the way out?
Yes,
So I feel like I've monopolised your time. Look at this, this is fabulous.
So these are wonderful prints of people we worked with in various ways. So you're looking at something by Joanna Lisovic at the minute, and beneath that a gorgeous lino cut from Izzy Williamson.
Persephone.
Yeah.
How interesting. Bit of Greek mythology there. We'll talk about Persephone another day. A lovely dandelion. Oh, that's good.
I love that one.
That seems to be Halloween-esque, isn't it?
Trees.
That's gorgeous. I love that.
Yeah. And that's really complicated because it's an interesting thing about printing. When you see it done well, you don't think about how difficult it's been to actually make it happen. And that's a lovely example of that, I think. You look at it and think it's a gorgeous picture. When you start thinking about the work she's had to do to print it, cut away some of the lino, print it again, cut away more, and on and on. It's a really
So these start as a tile, don't they? And use little engraving tools and cut away bits, then print that. Yeah. So you have to get the stuff right, don't you? Otherwise, disaster. So it's the kind of work that's gone into them, and the kind of skill is just extraordinary. Beautiful. Also Van Gogh lines there, isn't there?
It's gorgeous.
Isn't that so cosy? You just want to be in there, don't you? Absolutely beautiful. And kind of woodcut print. I mean, again, it's echoing very, very old art forms, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. This is more. I actually have a copy of this in my bathroom.
It's beautiful,
really nice.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So again, with the runs there, we've got a sort of a grey, we've got obviously a white, we've got like a sort of turquoisey, and obviously the yellow. Is that again different runs through the press?
Yeah, reduction lino cut. So every layer, every colour has been another working, and just making sure that everything lines up perfectly so that it all sits just right. So there's a lot of skill that's gone into that.
You can really see the artistry, can't you?
Yeah.
Beautiful. And let's just look at this just to get the absolute sort of contemporary, it's like Peter Saville design that one.
This is a lovely piece by Phil, who I mentioned, Phil Treble of Muffins and Nuts Press, and that's just playing with colour, playing with
really
shape,
talented,
playing with
he?
letterforms. He's fantastic.
But there's geometric shapes going on there as well. At first you think it's just circles, but of course there's squares and the points of intersection create new shapes, don't they?
Yes.
Almost like there's spaces in between.
Yeah.
So Leslie from London says, can you buy the cards online? Leslie, and I'll buy them for you and we can sort it out later.
We will have things online. We're just working to get things up on the online store, basically.
Fabulous. Make it easy for people, and they'll always want to support Fabulous. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much
for agreeing to be part of York Unlocked.
A great pleasure.
It's a bit different, but we've had. I've been doing this 3 years now. We've had stained glass working, and so it's nice to show the contemporary uses of old buildings, particularly when they are then echoing old crafts. If that sounds a bit of a tautology, but I'm sure you understand what I mean.
Yeah, and it's why we work so well with. I mean, the York Conservation Trust have been superb landlords, but it's also in the sense that they're really invested in the idea that we are also about preserving heritage and making things new and making things work in the modern world. Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been so nice spending time with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.